We are the boys who is discussing life, and I'm Peter, and my co-host is Andreas, if you want to say hello.
Hey.
And today's topic is alcohol and culture. Of alcohol in their blood. But I feel like for younger people, it's more like a social thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also believe that if you grow up in let's say Denmark where it's like a social thing, I also think that that somehow creates a healthy culture, like I mentioned before.
Yeah.
But at the same time it might be unhealthy because as a Danish student, I have always, even since middle school, I was encouraged to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I didn't really feel like it, and I think that can be kind of unhealthy for, especially when you're in ninth grade, you're 15,
Yeah.
and your classmates are just going around getting wasted as hell.
Yeah, that's one of the main differences. You've been encouraged to, if you want,
Yeah.
from middle school. Coming from a different country, we came from a culture where you weren't meant to drink until you're 18, until it's by law legalized.
Yeah.
And whenever I came here, you seen the difference that every 3 months there was a school party being held where a school was celebrating getting wasted and having a good time. Like, it was very interesting seeing the difference in cultures.
Yeah. So now I'm definitely gonna argue against myself, but because I said that there's a healthy culture around it. But yeah, I think that it can be somehow. So I don't mind it, to be honest, of course, because I enjoy going to parties, etc. But I see the aspect that it's kind of on a big scale compared to other countries.
Yeah, you could also you could say that's blown out of proportion, but if you think of it in like a narrower point of view, that it's all about traditions and keeping that going. But whenever you come out of gymnasium or high school or whatever you want to call it, that these traditions don't really follow you.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like it's only up until you're 19 or whenever you graduate that they follow you, and then after that there's no real traditions. Is there, like, alcohol wise?
So I mean, like, of course, people whenever they're 25, they still drink, but they more. I think it's because it goes from being like private school parties and.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no, like, for example, like a optional events that's being held on under your control. Like, you're present in the school and then they hold it, but whenever you graduate, then like everything's up to you. So I feel like that limits the possibilities of being an alcoholic, if you want.
Oh yeah, that's a good point actually. But then at the same time, we also see, for instance, whenever you go to so let's take my parents as an example. They both work at schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even the teachers, they have these Christmas. I don't know how to translate that, but it's basically Christmas lunch.
Yeah.
It's wherever they meet, they have nice food, and then they just get drunk. So that's somehow also
but I feel like
traditions.
I feel like that's within a workplace. I feel like that there's not a tradition, but a frequent occurrence in every country. Like, at a festive event, like Halloween or Christmas or New Year's, that's always going to happen in a workplace. But if I was just with my family at New Year's after graduating, I don't think there would be as many opportunities as there is whenever I'm in high school. I think it will be a lot more casual, a lot more sustained in what we would be drinking and what we'd be
that's
consuming.
true. That also shows that the high school culture might not be as toxic as it might sound, because we see that it's young people having fun, meeting up with their friends, getting drunk, having parties, and then whenever you grow up, that somehow leaves the craziness behind, and it becomes more structured, and that's just like everything else. Like, you become more an adult, and you become more, also because you have already experienced it, so you don't need to kind of try that whenever you're out.
Yeah, exactly.
That might be a good point.
It's ticked off of the bucket list. Like, a bucket list is where, you do things in your life that you want to, like, achieve, basically. And some people might have, getting wasted with your friends every week or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever it may be. But I feel like as you grow older, you mature, and especially whenever you graduate, then that's not the case.
yeah.
It's already
Because
done.
you already had all the fun that you needed,
Exactly.
and yeah.
You don't need it. Like, it's time. You're almost gonna move out,
Mm,
so you need to buckle down and then
yeah.
concentrate on what you need to do.
Yeah, that's also what we see whenever someone have extremely strict parents, right?
Yeah.
So we see them like they're not gonna be able to let's say taste different beers with their dads and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and then whenever they can get loose, then it becomes too much, and they're gonna end up like being way too wasted every single party because now they can finally let loose.
Yeah.
And I feel like that could happen if there was like a really strict culture around
Yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah, I was gonna touch upon that. Like, coming from a background where alcohol is stereotypically within my culture,
Mm-hmm.
I have a very strict Irish father,
Mm-hmm.
and he put education first.
Yeah.
And no matter what, like, as I said with the culture thing, that in my culture we didn't drink until it was legalized.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved over here whenever I was 17,
Mm-hmm.
and until then I never touched alcohol, and I feel like that there's just a difference. So what do you think that do you think over here in Scandinavian countries where it's more accepted to drink,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that should be toned down a bit, or that should be we should get rid of that tradition that we should be drinking more as a younger student in middle school or high school or whatever?
That's a really difficult question, but ah, I don't think there's like a certain right answer or wrong
There,
answer
there
to
is no
that.
answer. This is the
Yeah.
boys discussing life. It's our opinions.
Yeah. So you asked if I think that we should tone it down, or if it
We should tone it down or get rid of the tradition of which that it should be acceptable to allow children to be drinking at such a young age. Like, I don't know what the great comparisons are, but in my previous background,
Mm-hmm.
if we were to compare uh grades, one could say, I'm not sure if this is correct,
Mm-hmm.
but one could say that the grades from my background are a lot higher than the ones in Denmark because of the way that they treat the alcohol, like their approach to alcohol, that it shouldn't be taken until it is allowed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
over here, you're allowed to buy whenever you're 16,
16.
and
You can buy
then
beers and stuff.
yeah,
You cannot buy
beers,
hard
but
liquor.
that's enough to get
Yeah.
if you want to call it, ruin a kid's life, as in like them experiencing that and then enjoying it and prioritizing that over education. But whenever you think about it in my background, that was never the case. So it was always education first.
Yeah.
So you could think that in my background that it always set you up for a better future.
Yeah. But I feel like that's a correlation between parents being strict,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever parents are strict, they want their kids to work hard, and they don't want them to drink alcohol.
Yeah.
But you can also compare that to so many different things. For instance, whenever I was in middle school, I would never drink, right?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't spend my weekend doing homework. I would spend my weekend gaming, and my parents regulated that just like they would have done with alcohol, because that didn't make me productive. It didn't make me you can even argue that it could damage a kid's brain if they keep gaming and gaming and
Yeah.
gaming, but but I feel like that's more about parenting than because I feel like in Denmark parents are in general not strict. So for instance, if we take my parents as an example, like they would always want me to do my homework, but
whenever it's done, then you can have your
yeah,
fun
then I
time.
can have my freedom somehow, and I feel like that would be somehow the
Yeah,
same whether I was playing video games or if I was playing.
This is a question specifically for you. With your parents and you saying that there, do you think whenever you have your homework done, then you can have your free time? Do you think you would rush through your homework or just say to your parents, "Oh yeah, I've done it"? So you wouldn't be putting in your full effort into it. As I said, then you would be putting gaming or alcohol before your education.
Yeah, I feel like if so, let's say that my parents would say like, okay, have you done all of your homework, etc. Like it would be easy to just say yes. And if they were stricter than they were, then they would have asked, oh, can I see it? And at certain times they did, especially whenever I got older. But I feel like a really important part of growing up is learning to have self-discipline.
Yeah.
Because if your parents say, okay, I'm gonna watch you do your homework, you're gonna hate that. And whenever you get into high school, your parents are not gonna be watching you do homework. So if you could somehow teach self-discipline instead of just being this kind of authoritarian parent that just keeps watching over the kid.
Yeah.
And that applies to whatever your kid is doing, whether it's playing video games, drinking alcohol, watching movies, watching anime, whatever it is, like that applies to everything. Just having self-discipline, I feel like that's one of the most important things that you could somehow learn whenever you're a child.
So you think no matter what it is, gaming, anime,
Anything,
alcohol or whatever, the key aspect to it is self-discipline, or you have no future if you want, because then you'll be prioritizing the other things over education.
Yeah, definitely. Because if your parents just keep bossing you around, then just like we talked about, you're gonna want to somehow let loose or.
Yeah, I have an example of that there. Like, many times I've walked down the stairs and then felt like, oh yeah, the dishwasher is full, maybe I should empty it. But whenever my mum tells me empty the dishwasher, I feel reluctant to. Even though I was going to do it, the fact that I've been told to do it makes me angry at this whole thought process of it.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Even though I was thinking about doing it, I was still angry over it. So it's the self-discipline, and you need to be able to do things yourself and not needing other people to look over you and then look at your homework or tell you when to do your dishes or whatever.
Just somehow learn to take responsibility, not just for yourself, but also for your friends and just your life in general. Yeah. And that applies to so much more than just alcohol. It applies to everything basically.
Yeah, I feel like we've gone from alcohol to just in general education.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like that was the first podcast.
Yeah, that was the first podcast. You know, there will be many more.
Hopefully, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, well, thank you for listening.